Hey guys, and welcome back. So in this video we are going to be discussing question 12 of the programming challenge, which is in the link description below. Alright, so if you have been following my videos, in the last video you might have noticed that we used if and else condition statements instead of if elif. Even though if and elif condition blocks would work, using else and if is more efficient than just using elif and if. However, I did mention in the last video that if you had three numbers, that would not be possible. And therefore, in this video, we will be discussing how we would need three different condition statements, including else, elif, and if, in order to actually make the code work. So, sorry. So in question 12, it says to get an input from the user for three numbers and then print the biggest number out of the three. Alright, so let's get the inputs first. And again, hope you guys are saving your codes as I've did above, if you can see over here, from 1 to 11 or 1 to 12, because there's a lot of codes which is repeated in the programs, and we can just copy paste, and which I am going to do right now. So let's just copy the inputs for now. Alright, the additional input we need is number 3. Make sure it's an integer and not a string. And what is number 3? Alright, so to get the biggest number, we have to check we need an if statement to check number 1 with 2 and 3. Let's do that. If number 1 is greater than number 2 and number 1 is greater than number 3, we say print num1. Or yeah, we can make it fancy later on, but for now let's just print number 1. Next thing we want is elif. Now let me tell you the ideology behind this. If number 1 is not bigger than number 2 and is not bigger than number 3, the only numbers we're left with is number 2 and 3, because number 1 is the smallest out of all. That's why we need to compare number 2 and 3 first. So elif number 2 is greater than number 3, we say print num2. And finally, if number 2 is not greater than number 3, we know the greatest number is number 3. That's why we can just have a plain else statement saying print number 3 right away. Because again, this just makes your code way more efficient. And if you do computer science as a subject in your high school, or suppose, I don't know, IGCSE, because I do IGCSE and A-levels, you study that for loops take ages, or if not ages, they take a lot of memory to execute, and it is time consuming. Therefore, apologies, if statements take a lot of space and a lot of memory to execute, because they are usually very, very slow. Therefore, we need to minimize the usage of if statements and for loops and any loops, because condition statements are technically a loop. So we need to minimize the use of the conditions and loops as much as possible. So let's run this out and check if this works or not. So number 1, let's say 1, 2, 3. So this is the worst case scenario, because it goes through all the if statements. Alright, now let's check another route, which is 4, 1, 3. Alright, that works. Now having the biggest number in the middle, so 9, 123, and 7. And 123 is the answer. Now, again, you guys can make a code as fancy you want. So by fancy, I mean saying that the biggest number is number 1. And we can just make sure to add the comma and we can just copy paste it. And it should work just as fine. Just to check it out if it works or not. Number 1, let's say, oops, 1, 2, 3. There we go, it works.